Welcome to my PrepZone YouTube channel. We are India's top online CAT and GDPI coaching center where we offer you personalized mentorship by top B school mentors who have more than 8+ years of experience. Our results speak for themselves. You can take a view over here. And if you like us, do like and subscribe to our channel. And if you feel the content is relevant to you, do share it with your friends. So let's begin. So today we are gathered here to discuss about general discussion or GDs. So what is a general discussion? Just a minute. I'll put this over here. So a general discussion is generally a group of people coming together to discuss a common topic. It's 10 to 12 people usually sitting in a semicircle format and discussing the topic. So this used to be the format when you used to have offline GDs. With online, everyone's on the Zoom screen and the topic is given and you get to discuss that. The topic is generally given by the moderator, but the group can also be asked to choose. In very few cases, the group is asked to choose. And do remember that the GD starts as soon as the moderator finishes. So in that cases, you have to reach a consensus about the topic and then discuss the topic itself. But those cases are very rare. So the topics can be around current affairs, or it can be any general topic or any abstract topic. So when I say current affairs, it could be, say, the farm laws, which recently got repealed. Speaking about general, it can be, is dowry still a menace, something like that. Or abstract can be something out of the blue, like red is the new blue, or something around that only, which doesn't really make sense, but you have to discuss that. The total time taken for a GD is roughly 15 minutes, and where 1 to 2 minutes is given for your thought collection, and then 10 to 12 minutes for discussion, and then 1 minute for a summary. But this is not written in stone. This can change. So I have seen some GDs extending to 20 minutes also for discussion. So it will depend on the format or the moderators. So that will generally be given, told to you beforehand. So a GD, it usually has 3 parts. So first is the intro, where the topic is introduced. So this is after the moderator has given you the topic and you've done your thought collection. So then the discussion can actually be divided into 3 parts. So first is the intro, where the topic is introduced, and usually this sets the tone for the discussion. Then comes the actual discussion part, where you have different opinions and viewpoints, they emerge, and this is where your conflicts take place. And this is where you get to see who are the leaders of the discussion and who are the people who are keeping quiet. So this is where major decisions take place. And then the last part is the conclusion. It's where the group converges to agree upon a common point. So why is a GD held, or why is a GD very important in the selection process? So first, it allows moderators to see how well versed you are with topics. So not just current affairs, but general life also, because as world leaders, as CEOs and CFOs, as CXOs rather, you will be dealing with world issues and you should be aware of what's going around you. So that's why a GD becomes more important, to understand your thoughts and how well you can structure and articulate your thoughts, how logical you are. And then comes the most important point, that can you raise your points in a group? Because in corporate life, it will so happen that you'll be part of many discussions with a group of people. So there would be different teams you would be interacting with, leaders of different teams you would be interacting with, and each would have their own viewpoint. So can you manage that group? Can you manage this group of people and get your point across? So the people management skills come out in a GD. And the second most important point, whether you listen to others or not, because team working is not just about giving out your decisions, but accepting others' decisions as well. And if the viewpoint or the points of other people make more sense, then you do not let your ego come into act as a hindrance, and you accept the other's viewpoint and you move on. So this portion, many people skip this or they ignore this part, but in a GD, listening is as important as speaking. So hence a GD makes quite some sense. So we have discussed what is a GD and why a GD is important. So let's now discuss how to go about a GD. So To perform well in a GD, you need to have content for which you need to be well read. So once your CAT is over, I would advise you to go through newspaper articles and watch a lot of news and discuss common topics with your friends, because current affairs, you will need a lot of content. It's not something which you have learned over the years. And in general topics also, and in abstract topic also, you need to have certain world knowledge to understand what is being discussed, and you need to have a viewpoint around that. It cannot happen overnight. So for everything in a GD, you need to be well read. So for that, I would advise you to start as soon as possible. Start discussing topics with your friends, current affairs, or any general topic, and start reading up on what kind of abstract topics are given in GDs, so that you get a grip on how to go about abstract topics. So now once you have that part, so in parallel, how to do good in a GD, we have two frameworks which we will discuss over here. The first one is the KWA, or the keyword analysis. So as the KWA suggests, you need to look at the words which are given in the topic, and you need to understand what every word means, and then think around these six questions, the 5W and 1H, which is what, why, who, when, where, and how. So once you have thought on those lines, you will have sufficient points to start a GD, and even to make to put your points across during the GD. So let's take this up with an example. Now, I've taken a very recent topic, which is work from home, or WFH is the new normal. So the keywords here are WFH, work from home, and new normal. So to start with, I will understand what it means. What is work from home? What does new normal mean? And who it is for? It is not relevant for everyone, right? So that distinction comes in here. Why has it become prevalent? So because of COVID, it has become prevalent. And when did it start? So it started as soon as lockdown was introduced. So you can elaborate a little more on lockdown there. Where all is it applicable, and how it impacts us? So you understand these are six questions which I have answered, and with this six, I have roughly 6 points which I can use at the start and during the GD. So whenever you are in doubt, just use this 5W and 1H. And this KWA, or keyword analysis, can help you during your interviews also. Whenever you're asked a question, just understand what are the keywords in the questions of the interviewer and try to answer on these lines. You'll have your answer ready. The second framework which I want to discuss with you is the PESTLE framework. And again, it's a very relevant framework, not just for GDs, but for your WAT and for your PI as well. So PESTLE is an acronym which stands for political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So again, this is six aspects on which you can think, and if you can have just 1 point on these lines, you have at least 6 points. So 6 points from the previous one, 6 points from here, so you have like 10 to 12 points which you can put across. So usually what happens is, usually people just think on the first three ones, political, economical, and social. But if you can think on the last three ones as well, that earns you certain brownie points, because that will make you stand out from the group. So just keep this framework in mind. And if you're not able to think on one or two points, that's perfectly fine. You can still have 3 to 4 relevant points. And also understand that you should have good bank of points, because some points would be common which others would also have and they would speak. But if you're thinking on these lines, the 5W and 1H keyword analysis and the PESTLE framework, you'll have a good repository of 10-12 points. So even if 50% or even 80% of your points are taken, you're still left with 2-3 points which you can make and which would be different from the group. So do remember the last three ones, and the first three are definitely important, but if you can think on the last three ones also, then you'll have certain brownie points with you. So again, taking the previous example where we discussed work from home is the new normal. So if I think on the political lines, I understand that governments were trying to promote SEZs, or special economic zones. How does this impact that? How does this impact investment in a state if offices are not there? So that's some points on the political lines. Coming to the economical, so now people are saving money, they're not, which they were earlier spending on fuel and travel, but this also means loss of income to people who are related to the transport business, to cab drivers, to auto rickshaw drivers. So how does that affect the world? How does that affect you and me? Then there's revenge shopping and revenge travel also that's happening, where people have been uh, staying into lockdown for quite some time, and now they're coming out and doing a lot of travel to make up for the lost time. So how does that affect the economies? Thailand, for that matter, had a its economy depends 80% on tourism. During lockdown, they had a huge hit. So how did that affect countries? How did that affect India? So you can talk on those lines. Coming to social, uh, work from home has replaced workplace interaction. People are working more hours and getting burned out. But on the other hand, people have more time and to pursue their other interests. People are spending more time with the kids and parents. They're pursuing other hobbies like cooking, painting, and all. So you can have those points on both lines, whether work from home is good or bad. Is it the new normal? So you can have it around that as well. Now comes the most important part, the technological part. So how has it impacted the tech space? So we have seen that IT industry, people are putting in more hours, so they're contributing more, but they're also getting burned out more. Screen time has increased. Collaboration on Zoom is a nightmare. So how does this affect people? But many people have said that because of the reduced travel time, they're much more creative in their field with their work. So you can discuss on those lines as well. uh, Talking from the legal point of view, I'll move this a bit here. Yeah. So companies are looking to reduce the rent allowance, which used to be given, house rent allowance or the HRA. How does that impact us? How does that impact companies' bottom line? Many companies have given work from home allowance. So you're getting different points now. The above four topics, anyone could have had those points, but now you are diverting from the crowd, you're standing out from the crowd. And lastly, the environmental. So there is less pollution due to less travel, but people are shopping more and consuming more internet, which is causing some problems. So again, on both sides you can discuss this. But let us not forget what the topic is, that is it the new normal? Has it been accepted by people or has it been rejected by people? Is it the way forward, or it was just during the COVID times and now people are returning back to office? People are feeling that they need to collaborate more. So you understand that I have a plethora of points and I can actively discuss, be an active participant in the group, because I have answered certain questions and thought on some lines, and I have developed certain pointers which will help me to carry a conversation with a group of people, which is what the moderators are looking for. They want to understand that you can speak your mind and put your points across, and you speak logically, and also you are able to listen to what others are saying and imbibe certain points or understand certain points from them, and maybe carry forward those points as well. So this is how I would suggest that you work out a GD and you start thinking on these lines. And as a suggestion, you can just pick up any current affairs topic, or you can just pick up headlines which come in the topics in the newspapers, and do a pestle framework or a keyword analysis on that, and have your points ready. Some general tips for a group discussion: you should sit upright and confidently, do not slouch, because that shows lack of confidence. And if it's an offline GD, do not block any person, because you'll be sitting in a semicircle, so you would be facing people. So make sure that you're not blocking anyone, and if you're getting blocked by someone, try to be visible to the moderators. And if it's an offline GD or online GD, just a second. Yeah. So if it's an online GD, do not be in casuals. I cannot stress upon that any less. So you should be properly dressed, and your surroundings should not have any controversial things. So make sure you take care of these things. And the most important part, which I've kept on the second point, is be nice and be respectful. So you might know everything about the topic, but do understand there are others as well. And you shouldn't be belittling others, and try not to call anyone by their name. Even if you know them, try to address others as sir, ma'am, or my friend. So again, BNBR, be nice and be respectful, be courteous to others. uh, the third point is the same part: do not cut anyone off while they're speaking unless they have made a factual error. So look for pauses and breaks. So it so happens like there are certain pauses which happen because a person has to recollect, or form a sentence. So that's when you can make your entry. Try not to cut off someone is speaking in a flow. Then don't look at the moderators. So the moderators are there only to observe you and give you the topic. They're not there to help you out. So do not look at the moderators. And then do not scream, get angry, irritated if others are not listening to you or you are unable to make your point. Again, do not look at the moderators to help you out. You are on your own. You have to ensure that your voice gets heard. So which brings me to the next point, that voice modulation is really important. So if everyone is listening to you, you might not want to shout, but if you want your voice to travel above others voices, so that's when you need to raise your voice. If the group is not listening to you and it's becoming a fish market, you might want to raise your voice and calm down the group so that you can have a healthy and a fruitful discussion. Again, then don't use animated gestures. So you can use your hand to make gestures, but don't be animated. Don't wave them around, or don't just, these are no strict no. You can use your hands to point out to people, but stay within your range. You shouldn't be animated. uh, Numbers, you should quote them only if you're sure about the statistics. Otherwise, stay away from that. So I have seen people quote wrong numbers, wrong stats, and that has gone against them. So these are a few tips, and we will be discussing more in our WhatsApp and Discord groups. So this is not a laundry list. There are more tips and tricks. But again, I will stress on the second one, that you have to be nice and be respectful of others and be cognizant that others are also there equally qualified as you. So you shouldn't take others for granted. You should listen to what they're saying, and maybe you learn something. But whatever happens, do not scream, do not shout, do not get irritated. And yeah, that's it. So here are some FAQs usually which students have every year. So we have collated some of them. Like, how should I start a GD? Should I start a GD? So it's a high risk, high reward situation. You will definitely get more points for starting the GD, but the start needs to be coherent because it will set the tone of the GD. So you'll have to understand the topic, and if you're off topic, then you lose points actually. So unless and until you actually understood the topic very well and you have a very good start, I would advise you not to start it. But if you have a good grip on the topic and you have very good points, you should start, because that will definitely get you good brownie points. But the start should be timed very well, because you do not want that people to think that you are not giving time to others, because you might be a fast thinker and you might have jotted down your points very quickly. But if it takes 1 to 2 minutes for others to jot down the point, it would be advised to wait for others to look up while they're jotting the points, and that's when you should start the GD. You shouldn't start immediately after you've finished. If the group is not ready, you shouldn't start. Next one is, I am unable to make an entry. I am an introvert, or my voice isn't too loud. So what should I do? So it's okay if your voice isn't loud, or if you're an introvert, I would advise that you should speak up, because a GD is all about speaking and putting your point across. And this goes a long way in your corporate career as well. So you should look for pauses in people's points, because that's when you get your entry. It's a foot in the door. So if two people start speaking at the same time, you should allow the other person to speak, but you should definitely take your chance the next time. So I would again advise that start participating in a lot of GDs and start participating in a lot of discussions, so that you can get over this block of yours that you're an introvert or your voice is low. Start by voice modulation. You can start with a group of 3 or 4 people as well. That's perfectly fine. You do not need 10-12 people. Or you can start conversations with some of your friends and see how you're able to perform in that group, and learn from that. But if you're an introvert, I would again say that you should start speaking up. Okay, so if you're making an entry or if you're starting the GD, you do not need to introduce yourself. The moderators know who you are, and generally the seating is such that the moderators know who is sitting where, and in a Zoom meeting, your name is clearly visible. So you do not need to introduce yourself, and you do not need to ask for a permission to make your point, because in the corporate world, you will not have anyone where you can raise your hand and say that I want to make a point. Sometimes you'll have to fight your point out. So do not ask for permission before making your point. Okay, how many times should I make an entry in a GD? So there is no set rule. So if I take it mathematically, a GD of roughly 10 minutes and 10 people gives you 1 minute to speak on an average. However, you should have 2-3 relevant points, and if you're speaking for good 2-3 minutes, that should give you good enough points. And there's certainly brownie points if you bring in new points and new perspectives and guide the group, or if you're taking lead of the group and guiding them towards a conclusion, then that definitely helps. But there is no set rule that you need to have like 5-6 entries or 3-4 entries. 2-3 entries or above should be good, but definitely not, you should not be the only one who's speaking. So 7-8 entries is a strict no. So see how the understand how the group is going and make sure that everyone has spoken, including you. Okay, so I don't have any new points to make. Most of my points have been taken. What should I do? So that's okay. It's completely fine. But if your point has been taken, then you should be adding to that point. So suppose person A put a point forward. So I can say, as A rightly pointed out, I would like to add something like this, and then you can carry forward that point, but do not repeat what they said because they've already said it. So only carry forward if you have something relevant to add. That is also good, and it in fact gives you further more points. Both of you earn points for that. So even if you do not have new points to make, take others point forward. Then can I change my stance during a GD? Okay, so it's advisable not to take a hard stance. Staying in the middle or leaning a little left or right gives you that room to change your stance, because you can acknowledge and accept a differing point of view. That's completely okay. So do not think that, okay, I had leaned towards this, but now I cannot go in the opposite direction. It's perfectly fine. It rather shows that you're accepting of other people's viewpoints. Then comes, no one is working towards a conclusion and it's become a fish market. What should I do? So if it's becoming a fish market, I would advise you not to participate. You should take charge, raise your voice, calm everyone down, and drive the group towards a meaningful discussion and a conclusion. But again, do not look at the moderator to help you out. They're just to observe. They want to see how well you participate when nobody's listening to you, or if your points are not being heard across. So you need to make your point or guide the group towards that discussion, meaningful discussion. Okay, so should you be summarizing? So summary, whenever someone starts with a summary, it shows that they have kept a track of trying. But again, it needs to be timed well. You cannot just cut someone off in the middle of their point and say that, okay, I'm summarizing, something like that. It should come in naturally, and no new point should be brought in a summary because it only starts a new discussion. So only the relevant points which have been discussed so far, that can come up. So that also shows that you've been listening to others and you've been taking notes. So summary is good to do, but again, it should come naturally. Sometimes a moderator may ask someone who's not spoken to speak. So in that case, you may add new points because the moderator wants to hear your viewpoint if you have not spoken. But if the moderator has specifically asked for a summary, then you should summarize the discussion that has happened. And the biggest point, again, listening is more important than speaking. In a GD, you would be speaking for 2-3 minutes, but for the majority of the GD, you would be listening to what others are saying. So do listen, do understand what other people's viewpoints are, and take notes. Jot down you do not need to note down every point verbatim, but do make notes. And in case you're asked to summarize, because remembering from memory that time might land you into trouble. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this. So this is our results last year, and if you know anyone of these people, if they're from your college, do get a feedback from them. I'm sure each one would have a very positive feedback about us, and that's why we do not do any ads, because we work via word of mouth. And if you feel that you have liked what we presented so far, then do like our video and share it with your friends. All right then. Okay. Goodbye.